governance and negotiation roles rather than staying passive, because again, you'll be served, instead of creating the menu, you will be served. The Workforce Task Force was established to address urgent needs for a comprehensive strategy to improve workforce quality in Kern County. The task force developed a comprehensive framework that includes career pathways for school-age youth, the disconnected youth that we hear about from time to time, re-engagement programs for disconnected youth too, skill building initiatives for adults with barriers to employment. The interesting thing about the Workforce Task Force, I always talk about rowing in boats because everybody's got to row together to keep the boat going straight. Well, there was an old-time manager book called the Canoe Theory, came out in 2005. And basically, success depends on every member paddling together in coordination. It emphasizes that everyone is in the same boat, must contribute to move in the same direction. Those who don't contribute actively undermine the efforts and should be removed. This theory encourages responsibility and supportive team. Hold on. Wrong button again. So basically, the canoe theory core principles, everyone is paddled together. Everyone in the canoe has a specific role to play, and be sure they do it. All members are expected to contribute their best effort. Team members should support those who are struggling to paddle. If not, the person's unhappy with the role, the organization should help them find a different canoe where they might have a better fit. Because if they don't fit in the canoe, you really don't need to have them there. Leaders are ultimately held accountable for the captain of the boat, responsible for things to go on. So, in late 2014, the task force held its first Kern County Workforce Summit, bringing together business educators, nonprofits, government to discuss strategies to better align workforce training and educational programs for ever-changing needs. The initial Workforce Summit resulted in completion of a workforce regional economic sector study and skills gap that identified the needs of the community. The results of the summit were presented in October 19, 2016. The summit, the Workforce Regional Economic Summit Skills Gap, was used as a basis for a 4-year local plan to address workforce development needs. Basically, what the plan said: improve access to education and training opportunities for all residents, foster partnerships with non-traditional partners to leverage resources and expand workforce services, to support the development of career pathways to prepare workers for high-demand occupations in high-growth industries, using existing training and our developed custom training for necessary to meet the demands of business. Now, who are the stakeholders? Who was swimming in? Who were rowing in this boat? We had the Bakersfield Adult School, the Bakersfield Association of Realtors, the Homeless Center, which is now Open Door Network, Cal State Bakersfield, the City of Bakersfield, the County of Kern, Employer Training Resource, the Kern Alliance of Businesses, the Kern Community College District, the Kern Council of Governments, the Kern County Superintendent of Schools, Kern County Taxpayers Association, Kern Economic Development Corporation, the Kern High School District, the Kern Inyomono Building Trades Council, and even the Service Employees International Union. We met on Friday afternoons at 3 o'clock. And you say nobody meets on Friday. That's why we met on Friday, because everybody was available and their calendars were empty. So many things happened. Basically, the collaboration focused on developing innovative strategies to enhance student outcomes and align education with student needs. Two of the larger ones were the dual enrollment initiative with the Kern High School District, Kern Community College District, and Cal State Bakersfield. The the expansion of technical career education, Kern High School District and the Kern Superintendent of Schools. The main byproduct of that is the building we're sitting in today, helping the kids, as you see back in the back, who are going to be our future workforce. The Kern Promise was committed to deliver transfer students to help to complete their associate degrees to transfer within 2 years, as long as the students met the requirements. CSUB's Transfer Success Pathway guaranteed teacher admission. Guaranteed future admission if students commit to transferring within 3 years. The pledge, Kern Economic Pledge, was signed by every school district, CSUB, Kern Community College District, West Kern College District, businesses, charter schools, and basically they integrated what's called the Kern Integrated Data System, which is now an integral part of ensuring that students' outcomes and data assist all stakeholders in making informed decisions about what's best for students, teachers, and schools. Having more programs, the ETR on-the-job training programs provide paid work experience in youth 16 to 24. They have vocational training program options, career fields such as healthcare, construction, and technology. I'm going through this pretty fast. Culinary arts program. The Bakersfield Adult School offers a culinary arts program to provide a hands-on training and certificate program for adults seeking careers. Recycling Lives program. The Kern Alliance of Business Recycling Lives Initiative help formerly incarcerated individuals reintegrate into society through employment in recycling and other sustainable sectors. Medical careers, are a lot of medical training programs that were grant funded through ETR, basically for nursing assistants, medical billing, and other healthcare roles. There's a prison to employment program that connects formerly incarcerated individuals with job training, career counseling, and employment opportunities. Overall, the impacts of these programs have been really phenomenal. Reduced unemployment, improved job quality, expanded access, strengthening regional economic resilience. Kern County Workforce Task Force only met for 5 years. With COVID in 2005, it kind of melted. But the programs that were created to provide inclusive, sustainable dividends to Kern County every day. So that's my quick little speech. So now what I'm going to do, next on Supervisor Perez couldn't be here today. She's in the state California Association of Counties meeting in San Jose. So figure out how to do this. We have a video here we're going to show. Okay. Good morning. Leticia Perez, Chairman of the Board of Supervisors, we're doing this video because she couldn't attend our annual meeting on December the 4th.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you for the opportunity. Well, you were part of the organization that's got this all started, the initial group, and I want to be sure that everybody had the opportunity and we take care of anything. During the period, we're going to talk about all 16 partners that we had.
Awesome.
And give them all the credit that they deserve. Awesome. And so we're having this conversation about the Kern County Workforce Task Force. And nobody's ever heard of it. It's a little group of work people who care about the workforce.
Movers and shakers.
Some and some weren't. But back in early 14, we're going to get into this conversation. I might as well let Supervisor Perez tell the story. Tell the story back in 14 when you had the meeting with Tejon Ranch.
So here I am. I'd been chair for 1 week. The vice president of Tejon comes into my office, wants to have a very serious conversation about the future of Kern County. And he says, we have interesting vendors, Coach, for example, others who are willing to look at Kern County, but they have one little concern. And I said, what's that? He said, workforce quality. And I said, I'm sorry, come again? This was not a term I understood or knew anything at all about. He said, started to explain the condition of the workforce, that we have an incredibly ambitious and incredibly, patriotic, family-oriented, sort of great American stock in our people. But our skills level, very low, our educational attainment, very low. And ultimately, the gap between where our young people are and where employers think they need to be is pretty big, pretty profound. And he was actually very concerned that he would not be able to seal the deal with these employers who wanted to come here, with vendors who wanted to come and partake in the outlets if we were not able to produce the workforce that was going to help them make money and make this project a success in Kern County. So we got to work. We located in a corresponding community college a 24-hour certificate training program that literally taught the most basic things that you need for an entry-level position. Here's how to count change, pick up your pants, don't fist fight your supervisor, literally. We had those kind of soft skill challenges in our entry-level job training environment. Those were our realities. But of course, a very ambitious, a very excited, a very hopeful population. So we identified this 24-hour certificate training program. We hosted 9 job fairs throughout the county, most of them in my district, and we trained 2,000 workers with a simple 24-hour certificate training program. At the end of those 24 hours, they received a certificate, and we were able to take them to Tejon and let them know that this 2,000 member population that were from Kern County, our natives, our people, that they were trained in the basics of commercial activity within this kind of business environment, that they could count change, that they had basic math skills, that they knew how to greet customers, that they understood the nature of what the expectation on them was. We trained 2,000 workers, and we launched them the year I was chair at Tejon Outlets, an enormous, huge kickoff and grand opening with 2,000 workers, all who were smiling, who were excited, who understood the basic expectation of them in that workplace. They did not need an AA degree. They did not need a BA degree, though some of them would go on and attain those things. In order for these jobs, we were able to close that skills gap in a very short period of time with not an overwhelming program or, onerous expectations, something basic, something simple, something attainable for our people right here. And we launched that with 2,000 well-prepared, excited workforce members for Tejon. It was very, very exciting.
So we had a little conversation about this after the Tejon conversation, and we put together, Kern Tax hosted a dinner. Actually, it was hosted by Wonderful hosted the dinner. But we had 34 community leaders at Maxwell's restaurant, used to be in the alley. And we had a National Association of Realtors workforce development guy give a speech and tell us really what we needed to do. Tell us a little bit about that story and how that really kicked us to another level.
The best thing that I've ever done as supervisor legitimately is partner with Mike Turnipseed. And I mean that because he comes from a world that I don't come from. He knows things and knows people that I don't know. And when we came together, it really was quite magical. The people that he introduced me to, the conversations that I was invited into were a complete game changer for me. These were not things that I had studied in college or law school. I was a public defender, prior to becoming supervisor. So this was a skill set in a world and a methodology that I simply knew nothing about. And so to be invited into this circle was a really big deal. I ended up sitting next to Councilman Mckinley, who comes from a different political party than myself, the other side of the tracks, if you will, and a person who I frankly did not believe would be interested in my opinion or want to hear what I have to say. And I was completely wrong about that. And it turns out that he had some opinions about me that were not exactly accurate. And it was Mike who brought us together, who forced us to get into the same room, to sit down at this table, to listen to these big ideas ideas about what is possible for our community when we think, really strategically and employ a methodology that looks at the reality of our people, where they are right now, and how we close the gap on getting them to where they want to be.
Okay, thank you. After our original dinner, a few of us got together. I invited you to go with me to Orange County to hear the State of the Workforce luncheon by the Orange County Business Council. And I invited you, and next thing I know, you invited 5 more of your closest friends. And so we had this nice big Suburban full of people.
Yes, we did.
Tell us about that little ride.
And so a group of us got into this Suburban, and we said, we're going to head to Orange County, and we're going to go to a center place where business thrives and people thrive, and the roads are beautiful, right? Because they have lots of tax revenue, and a place that's really got some things figured out that we'd like to emulate. And we want to see, what they do and how they do it. What does it look like? What subject matters are discussed? Who's there, and go and really see it up close, personal, so that we can get a sense of how we do that in Kern County, and why can't we, right? So we drove down to Orange County, and the entire way, incredible energy in the car, incredible excitement about what we could do together, and frankly, a group of people that just don't normally get together and hang out and talk. Here we were talking and realizing how much we enjoyed each other's company, how much we laughed together and thought, very highly of each other, frankly. I got to know so many things about the people on that trip. Barriers came down, ideas we had about people were changed, and we were incredibly inspired by what we saw in Orange County. The professionalism, the sophistication, even in the documents that they presented to us there to share ideas. They were simple, but they were sophisticated. They were cutting edge. And as we looked at them, we realized we can do this. We can do this in Kern County. We had our key ETR people there, Teresa Hitchcock. We went back to Kern County and we designed our own documentation around what we saw in Orange County, because they had this very interesting way of communicating their demographics, their needs, their people, who they are, in really short and simple structure.
What are your thoughts about the outcomes of the Workforce Task Force over and what all they accomplished over that period of time?
We may have been the only people in Kern County genuinely, sincerely working on Friday afternoons about 4:00. That was the only time really that we could be certain that everybody was available. And the fact that people were willing to do that, come together on Friday afternoons, and I mean a pretty big size group of us in the Point Conference Room at the county, and just sit down and talk, strategize, lend energy, lend expertise, is really incredible, Mike. The devotion of that group, the dedication of those people, at Mike's invitation mostly. And of course, as chair, I was able to influence some of those folks to want to be in the room and to want to participate in the conversation. It was absolutely a magical time, Mike, that we thought, where we debated, where we disagreed, where sometimes we had some knockout, drag out fights, Mike, in all honesty. We had some disagreements. We had people get up and storm out of the room when we were presented with frustrations about the condition of our kids, the condition of our graduates. We wanted to see big improvements in the lives of young people here and the opportunities presented to them.
The fact that Bakersfield College and Cal State got together and streamlined programs, the pathways, your degrees, that we take all your credits. We make sure the curriculums were aligned. They did that. The superintendent schools and all the school districts came out with the Kern Pledge, where the data that we now can track and things that we can do to highlight and spotlight early on the problems and challenges we had. And then you mentioned dual enrollment. That's a story into itself, how just happened to happen. And where we're here today, CTEC.
So
that was all a spin-off of what was going on in 2014 and 2015.
So cool.
And they're major programs. Looking back, there were probably 10 or 12 that actually made fundamental change that most of them don't hear about. CTEC is out there. Dual enrollment's out there. but that are actually on the ground with helping kids and young adults get the skills they need to perform. So kind of in wrapping up, what is the takeaway is good. I mean, most people don't know the work that the Kern Workforce Task Force got together. And there were 16 organizations. It wasn't just you and me, and it just didn't happen.
You know, Mike, obsessively thinking about these issues all the time, this is what he does like no one else I've ever seen, sends me this article about the youth disconnected rate in Kern County. And actually, took a look at the 98 largest metropolitan areas in America from Boston to Bakersfield. And the numbers were quite stark. It looked at youth disconnected rate, meaning young people between 16 and 24 who were not in school and not working. From Boston to Bakersfield. Bakersfield had the second highest youth disconnected rate, second only to Memphis, Tennessee. They were 22.6, we were 22.2. So essentially the same as a very, very deep South, struggling area of the nation. This, of course, being California. People don't think of California this way. The reality is nearly a quarter of our young people not in school, not working, not on a pathway to success, to meet their own American dream, to get their own, to get theirs, right? Their own achievements, their own hopes met right here in Kern County, even though, right, we're the poorest congressional district in the United States. Bakersfield, for any city above 250,000, the least literate. We are literally serving here the least of these, literally. A difficult reality in our statistics. Mike sent me that article and it changed my life. We started sending those numbers out, not in shame, not in embarrassment, not to look at any particular group of people like they were worse or unworthy, but an honest look at where our young people are and how important it is for us to put all differences aside, be they political or otherwise, and focus all of our efforts entirely on our young people and closing the skills gap and creating pathways that are unique, that meet the specific, unique needs of our people.
It happens not because of Kern Techs. It happens with our partners and approaching non-traditional partners. And because we're being a taxpayer organization of always just saying, we're not for this, we're not for that, just be cheap. We took a new direction into return on investment. What are the outcomes? What outcomes do we need? And nothing shows better outcomes than the Workforce Task Force. And I'm very proud of that. And I want to thank you for taking time to film this. I know you wanted to be here today, but thank you again.
Thank you, Mike. The Workforce Task Force was the absolute best of us. It was the best of us. And we came in as good faith players. We learned some things. We had disagreements. We had agreements. We had it all. And we were willing to be truthful about the condition of our community and how much we care about where our community is, enough to partner in a new and exciting way. And there have been good outcomes. As I walk through this building here, my heart is full. As I see the opportunities being presented to Kern County kids, my heart is just full. It's bursting because I know it's the product of incredible people coming together, really caring about the future. And of course, I see these young people doing this exceptional work. I really feel like, my life has meant something by watching this. And I want to thank you for what you have done to include me, to teach me, to guide me, and help me be a small part of this incredible operation that has lifted up every person in this community.
Thank you to be and this is well-deserved, a true partner.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Well done, Mike.
Well done.
Thank you.
So,
We're good.
we're good.
Guys.
Okay.
Next, we're going to talk about dual enrollment. And while everybody talks about it, kids are taking high school credits, and there's really phenomenal numbers of what's happening and what difference it makes to families. And we'll talk about that too. And Scott Odlin, who is the District Director of Instructional Services and Innovative Programs at Kern High, we're going to have a little chat. You're right. Getting old, can't think of our.
Yep, I think you're good.
You hear me? Yeah, okay. So, Scott, we're going to talk a little bit about dual enrollment and some perceptions and non-perceptions. We'll start out with what's the difference between early college and
Sure. So a couple things you'll see on, and I'll have a little bit going on the presentation there as we're kind of having this conversation so that you guys can look it over. Dual enrollment is a function of having some of our high school teachers teaching a course that is aligned with one of our college partners course, either CSUB, BC, Saracosa, where we're aligning a course with them, and one of our teachers who is qualified is then teaching that course, and the students get high school credit with us toward graduation, and then as well as college credit with BC or CSUB toward an AA degree or further. And so I've also listed on there a couple other types of credit that we give in the Kern High School District, including concurrent enrollment, where BC allows some of our students or CSUB to take a course with them, usually after school at night, in addition to their regular coursework during the day with us. And articulated credit, where one of our CTE courses has been deemed to be a comparable course to a college, and so they're articulated with those universities as well. So those are the ways that those get dual enrollments. One of the major players and ways that we get students college credit during high school. You'll see here the early college is a more recent sort of undertaking that we have, where we are starting students in cohorts as freshmen so that they have opportunity taking courses at night to complete by the time they're senior in AA degree. So we have students who are going through high school, taking all their regular high school coursework during the day, in addition to taking courses in either summer or at night, and by the end of their senior year, they can complete an associate's degree. And so we have several different AA pathways that I don't believe I've listed on there, but the flyer that you see there is BC's flyer as well on their website. And so we've articulated some pathways that we work with them on. Those include industrial automation and public health, which are here at CTEC. And then we have law, public policy, and society at the Bakersfield Southwest, the BC Southwest campus, and then psychology and political science that are also at BC Southwest. So all of those different areas our students are getting an AA degrees in. And as you see on the slide right now, we have about 470 in the current cohort that are enrolled in those courses.
Okay. So what is the value of dual enrollment for families and students?
Yeah, so that's been one of the big pushes there, forward progress with dual enrollment and college opportunities. Obviously, continuing to expand our college offerings, but some of the benefits that you see, students earn college while in high school. So obviously, those who have an AA degree, no matter where you go to school, there's some associated costs with that. And with our partnership with BC, that program is free to all of those students. So we cover a lot of the books, some of the other kinds of costs. BC provides teachers as well as some of our concurrent teachers. So that partnership is totally free for those students as they're working through some of those courses. They get high-level, rigorous instruction, obviously, and then that time spent in college tends to help them, with the persistence in hopefully continuing their education. Even some of those that don't start in our ninth grade cohort, we offer dual enrollment courses that are aligned with sophomore courses, junior and senior courses. So we have a AP English course that might also be synced up with BC to be English B1A, and so those students get one of their English courses at BC already out of the way. Even if they haven't gone to get an associate's degree, they could have any number of varying credits toward going to college. So I think it helps, obviously it helps a lot with cost, but it also helps in student mentality a lot, like Letitia was talking about, getting students thinking that they can do it and that they have a leg up. They're already in, some of them get priority registration because they have enough credits to already be classified past their freshman year.
Okay. So what is the scale of dual enrollment in the Kern High School District, and how has that evolved over the last 10 years?
Sure. So let me look at. So here's some numbers on that. The KCCD numbers that we have on that sheet there, and you'll see kind of the gradual increase of our numbers from 2019, where the graphic there on the left is our courses. In 2019, we had 340 courses. And so that's, in a matter of 5 years, this was still a fairly new program, as mentioned before. And now in 2025, we have 514. So we've gone from the 2019, the number of students enrolled on the right there, we've gone from enrolling 4,800 students to now having 9,200 students enrolled in those courses. So more than doubled in the last 5 years. And there you'll see the numbers as well with CSUB. So we've been with CSUB a little bit longer, so that goes all the way back to 2012, where we had 23 courses and now 47, and then in 560 students up to the last year's graph of 924. So combined about a fourth of our students enrolled in some of those courses.
So basically, how many of the students have then moved on, dual enrollment students, to post-secondary programs and graduate? And how does that compare for the district as a whole? I mean, does the dual enrollment kids, is there any more going on, or is it any less?
Yeah, I think it helps with a lot of the persistence. So we've got the enrollment rate at college for our students who have at least taken one, either dual enrollment or a concurrent course, is much higher. They persistently go on 85 to 90% of the time or higher, into the environment, and to either get an AA college or BC, CSUB, etc. It's very difficult in most of those metrics to track past high school, just because obviously across the country each state has their own system and are aligned. So we're very good at tracking kids in California. Once we graduate 10,000 seniors and they scatter, across the U.S., Canada, all over the place, tracking where they go has been obviously problematic. But you'll also see, let me bring back one slide if I have it on here. No, I might have it on there. There is one that we talked about before where the persistence in associate's degree in some college in Bakersfield is higher. Our kids are higher than the state average, the state and county average, in terms of a lot of our kids graduate and go get an AA. But then we see a dip where our bachelor's degree graduation in Bakersfield is lower than the state average in the county. So that idea of, can we, by giving kids more dual enrollment, more college exposure, build their persistence to not only go to college, because we see a lot of them going, but then they're not, they're getting high level of some college or AA attainment, but lower level of bachelor degree attainment. So trying to build that persistence in. And here's the numbers as well for enrollment totals across 2015 to 2025, how many students between CSUB and KCCD that we have had taking courses, and how many credits they've earned.
Are there any obstacles you think with continued growth and doing more? Where are we going to be 10 years from now? What we should be doing if we're going to need to be doing anything different?
Yeah, I think we're still continuing to build a partnership. One of the obstacles, obviously, is just with qualifications of teachers, because the teachers have to meet minimum qualifications to teach a college course, and not all high school courses meet college courses. So we're working on, our freshmen and sophomores, in a lot of our classes, our freshmen and sophomores are preparing themselves in college prep courses to get to that point. So continuing to offer some of our upper level classes articulated with BC and CSUB is obviously the goal, but we also need some of our teachers to meet those minimum requirements. We have seen a lot more programs, the universities have been popping up in terms of getting a master's degree that's in the subject area, because a lot of our employees will have a master's degree, but it will be in education. It's not a degree that's in specifically math or specifically English. And those are the qualifications that we need to be able to articulate to offer those courses.
Okay, well, does anybody have a question? I have time for one question from the audience. Does anybody want to ask anything?
I think you had a number as well, Mr. Turnipseed, in relation to the number of credits that we have there. Did you run some numbers?
Oh, you want to hear that number? For these kids who graduate and have units from Kern High School District going to Cal State Bakersfield Cal State Bakersfield has a cost of about $300 a unit. The tuition, books, and supplies are about $9,000. So if you take $300 a unit and multiply it by 185,000 units, that's $55 million that local families aren't spending at Cal State Bakersfield. Pretty staggering number. And I did the same for BC. I know a lot of kids don't pay tuition, but if you paid their tuition, which is $83 a unit, it's like $15 million in savings on the units. And I look at UCLA, and UCLA is a little more expensive. It's $570 a unit. So if your kids all went to UCLA and they used all these credits, that's $105 million you're saving here in Bakersfield. Parents aren't writing those checks. So
Yeah,
kids going to college and use those credits.
Yeah, some of that's important just in terms of we're not, a lot of those kids do continue at our local universities, but many of our students graduate from high school and move on. So if they've accumulated that, they've saved it at a variety of universities across the country.
Yes, those are just examples. Scott, thanks a lot.
All right, thank you.
Next, we're going to have Brian Miller. Why did I say that? Brian Miller. He is the principal, basically the architect. Back 10 years ago, he was given the mission to build this place. After the 2016 bond, he traveled the country, and this is what Bakersfield got. And you really, if you have time, be sure we're going to have tours afterwards. If you haven't seen their classroom and seen the kids, right in the back of the room, we'll get together and get you an organized tour. So, Brian?
Thank you, Michael. Glad you got Dennis and all. I'd have to come tell some jokes, so I don't have many.
How has the development of pathways influenced students past secondary going to college rates?
Yeah, so the pathway concept is one that where you've got a series of courses that starts in high school and continues on to post-secondary education. And it's a very important part of what we do in the Kern High School District, and specifically at ROC and CTEC, to where anytime we're building a program, we're looking to our post-secondary partners to see what they offer. And we want to work with them to align that curriculum so that they're starting with us and going on to finish at post-secondary level. We also educate them along the way about, if they want a certain job, there's a certain level of education that's going to be tied to that job. And some of it is going to be a high school diploma, but most of it's going to require some form of post-secondary education, whether that's a certificate program, an AA degree, a bachelor's degree, or an advanced degree. And so educating them along the way about those pathway options, and we're always looking to our local partners, specifically Bakersfield College and CSUB Bakersfield are the two that we work with primarily here, to talk about that pathway because we want to direct them to local options. And so that's really influenced our college going rate and our students at ROC and CTEC over the last few years. You can kind of see the chart up there for the last 9 years of data there. We took a big dip in the pandemic, rightfully so. Students stopped going to college. And so we've really rebounded since then, though. So we're right around the last couple of years, around 75% of our seniors graduate and they go on to post-secondary education. And that's about 20% higher than the average student in this area. And really that is attributed, I believe, to that pathway concept because they're really getting confidence. We have dual enrollment articulation, the stuff that Scott was talking about, embedded into most of our classes, so they're getting exposed to that college rigor, getting the confidence with that. And then a lot of students come to us and they don't even ever envision themselves going on to college. A lot of our students come, they start the school year, that's not even a thought in their mind, but throughout the course of the year, that perception changes dramatically, and that's why you see that high rate there. And so it's really about that pathway concept.
So how did we get to where we are today with Rock and CTEC? What's kind of the history of the programs for vocational training?
Yeah, so our history of vocational training in Kern High really started with the ROC Center back in 1985 is when that opened in conjunction with the Bakersfield Adult School out on South Mount Vernon. ROC is still out there today. And the cool thing, this is actually our 40-year anniversary of the ROC campus. So we started with this same model back in 1985 where juniors and seniors would take a career technical education program, they called it Go-Get back then, for half their school day. So these students come to us for a morning session, they're here for 3 hours a day. Our afternoon students just got here at noon, they'll be here till 3 o'clock, they've been on their high school campuses all morning. And then we even run evening sessions as well. So we've got a group of students that comes in every night at 5:30 and they're here till 8:30. And so that's really how the ROC started. It was about 16 programs. And it really stayed the same until we started the expansion project. So it really started in about 2015. Our superintendency at the time, our board of trustees, they were a big believer in career technical education and really wanted to see that expanded in the district. And so we got some focus groups together of leaders in the district and started talking about different options to do that. Whether we want to try to invest in all of our high schools or whether we maybe look at some magnet schools, doing some things like that. Or we just expand that ROC model. And that's really what we landed on because the beauty of the ROC is that it serves the entire community. So we take students from 24 different high schools within Kern High, Greater Bakersfield area, Arvin, Shafter, and even the Lake Isabella with Kern Valley there. And so that conversation landed on that expansion model. And then it was really about developing a shared vision with the community. And there were some very strategic partners in doing that at the time. Sonia Christian was up at Bakersfield College, and that was her initiative with dual enrollment pathways. And so we started talking about expanding ROC and building a second center to align more pathways with Bakersfield College. And then Richard Chapman, who's here today, he helped talk about the workforce development side of things. And then Michael Turnipseed, yourself. And those three were really ones that helped kind of shape that vision and share that vision throughout the community. And our goal, when we knew that we were going to try and secure some funds through a bond in 2016 to build a second center, we really wanted to put the best of the best. And we believe that's what our students deserve, that's what our community deserved. So we took several teams to other states to kind of see what other schools were out there, what other designs were out there. Spent a lot of time specifically in the Phoenix area, took several teams out there to look at some of their schools. So we've got some high-end career tech schools. Brought back all those ideas and started talking about what this could look like here. And that really shaped the vision of our expansion out of the ROC campus and then the building of CTEC, which this expansion of ROC finished in 2019, and then CTEC opened in 2020. We went from being able to serve, we had 16 programs, we now have 38 programs between the two campuses. We could serve about 800 students back in 2015. Our enrollment now is at over 2,600 students. That's about our max capacity that we can serve. So we've more than tripled what we can accommodate here, and added that evening session as well so we can give even more students an opportunity. So that's kind of the evolution that it took. We also, during that time early on, to decide some of those programs, we looked at labor market data, but we also surveyed our students. We've got 21,000 student surveys back, and we asked them, what kinds of programs would you be interested in attending? We had like 50 different choices on there, and took that data, and that really kind of helped us shape that vision for what program areas we would expand in, along with our labor market data too.
So you mentioned your road trips that you went on across the country to look, not besides Phoenix and Nashville and Florida and around. Who's come to Bakersfield to visit CTEC?
We get a lot of visitors. We've had, for the last 3 years, we've had annually 2 very large groups, usually one in the fall, one in the spring, from the Anaheim area, Orange County, Long Beach, Los Angeles. They're bringing their groups here to see what we're doing here in this area at the 2 centers and the model that we have, because it's been such a successful one. And so they're taking that back and trying to do that in their community. And so it's very exciting. They love showing off what we do. We do a lot of tours here. We love bringing in people from throughout the California to see what we're doing. And we've had people from other countries here too. We've had groups from India come in. We had a group from South Korea come in just to learn what we're doing. And they're getting turned on from people in our community that say, hey, you got to come and see what they're doing at ROC and CTEC. So very proud of that and the work that we're doing here.
So you're becoming a destination for people. That's great. So what expansion can we look forward or is going on in the future? Where do you see the next 10 years? Where are we going to be from now? And what are your plans? What careers are you looking at adding?
Yeah, so we've got a couple things. We put our enrollment data up there over the last 9 years, and you can really see the growth. Our application rate has gone up almost every single year over those last 9 years. Outside of kind of had that small dip in the pandemic there, but just this last school year we had 6,600 students apply to take a program with us, and that is about 1/3 of the students in the district that are eligible. They're all juniors and seniors here, so we have about 20,000 juniors and seniors. We had 6,600 of those students submit an application to take a program. We enrolled, we're able to enroll about 2,600 of them. We've got a waiting list of over 2,000 students as well that, they did everything they were supposed to do. Their counselors recommended them. They put them on a waiting list. We're just out of capacity. And so we have some a project in the works here. If you parked in the west lot between Aquatics and CTEC, there's a piece of land back there behind a fence. And so we do have some stuff in design there to put some expanded facilities out there that will allow us to add some more program space. And then we also at ROC, we just got about a week ago notified that we received a strong workforce grant for about $1.6 million out there, and we're going to be doing a couple things with that to expand. We do have a vacant shop out there that we're going to be putting a new program in next year called Introduction to Skilled Trades, and so the trades are a very important sector for us. Very, very growing demand in the workforce, and so we're going to put an introduction to skilled trades. It's going to be geared towards junior level students, kind of expose them to all the various trades, and then they can come back a senior year and get priority enrollment to one of our welding, diesel mechanics, auto mechanics, construction programs that are all highly impacted. And then at night, out there in that same classroom space, we're going to be putting an HVAC training program. So we're very excited about that. Been looking at that for years, just haven't really had a space to do that. And so a very high demand career. So we're going to be starting that. It'll be an evening program for us next year, which is great because we'll be able to put some adults in there as well, and a lot of great career opportunities and get them certified. And also working with Bakersfield College on that program as well, because they've got a great HVAC program to kind of align our curriculum there if they want to continue their education. So those are some of the things in the works to go ahead and have some immediate expansion, and then the project here is a few years out, but that'll open up some space for us too, and always looking down the road.
Well, there's lots of demand, and the interesting thing is your internship program that I'm always amazed at, because everybody's trying to do an internship program, and just spend 30 seconds telling about the kind of numbers you have of kids from CTEC that have internships that go to jobs and graduate on Friday, go to work on Monday.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of internship programs going. One, our largest one happens during the second semester. We call it Community Classroom. And so about 40% of our students will do an unpaid internship during the school day from ROC and CTEC. And so that means what that looks like is instead of that 3-hour block time with us on Tuesdays through Fridays, they're placed at a job site with the site supervisor, and they're putting those skills that they learn in the classroom into play in a real world setting. That's a very powerful program for us. Connects a lot of the dots where the students can see what they learn in the classroom and doing it on the job. Those real professional skills that we teach are put into play. So that happens second semester. We have over 300 businesses that we partner with. Those are formal agreements that the district has with them to serve those students. And then the other one that we've been working with KEDF on is the KIC program, Kern Intern Connection. Started a few years ago in the manufacturing sector, and we're looking to expand that as well, working with Richard and his team. And so that's for graduating seniors in certain programs where the employer offers a paid internship, typically during the summer, And we kind of Cake works to connect kind of those top students into those internship positions as well. And then they've even got some funding to provide gas cards for some of those students. But some of them, we got kids, National Cement's one of our partners there. They're driving all the way out there every single day. But it's a great opportunity for them. And so we get a lot of success out of there. I know our digital marketing students have had a lot of success. Last year we partnered with some of the city governments as well. Tehachapi comes to mind, and Wasco as well. So that's the KIC Internship Connection Program.
You're a very busy man. Thank you very much for joining us today. So next, we're going to have Dr. Stephen Bloomberg. Stephen has been the chancellor for the last, year and a half? And we're going to talk about things from the downtown Bakersfield headquarters of the Kern Community College District. Thanks for joining us today.
Always good to see you, my friend. Good afternoon, everyone. Be a little more excited, right? I mean, we just handed out cake. You haven't gone to fructose high yet. I mean,
I should ask, you mentioned the cake. How was the food? So when you go out, you might be seeing one of these kids in the restaurants you go to. So that was good. I'm glad everybody enjoyed that part. Overall, how are the workforce demographics shifting in Kern County? And because we now have maybe up as many as 4 generations of the workforce working. How does that impact the work environment, especially? We're going to kind of focus on healthcare because that's a very important subject right now.
absolutely. Again, Michael, I want to thank you for the opportunity. And I want to talk really quickly about legacy. So, as everyone in the room knows, we're here today because there was some great work accomplished back in 2014 through 2016, and Supervisor Perez talked about, I think she used the word obsessive with you. Did she use that? I think she used the word obsessive, right?
She's a politician. She passes out words like...
I mentioned this for a very specific reason, because the first time that Michael and I met, we had breakfast shortly after I started in March of 2024 as chancellor. And so what I wasn't pre-warned about was that there's a specific cadence when you talk to Michael, especially for the first time. And so his first lead-in question was, a year from now, what are your key performance indicators? What's the ROI? And he then said, by the way, the Constitution of the United States of America stops at this table. So you can't plead the Fifth Amendment. And so there was no getting out of the conversation. So I really understood firsthand the obsessive nature that the supervisor is speaking about. So I want to thank you for that obsession, because it helps our county, right? We're in a better place today because of the work that was done back in 2014. So to take a moment and recognize you and the early pioneers that brought us to today, our conversation is really about what's next, right? Because legacy is important, but we're living in a United States of America. We have a society that is what? What have you done for me lately? And so the question is, what are we going to do for people next, Michael? And so that's what you and I are going to talk about. It's interesting. There are 4 generations in the workforce, all, by the way, represented in this room. Baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z. Our lunch was prepared and served by our Gen Z students who, again, amazing job. When I walked in, I asked them, what is good? They said everything. So I hope that you have the opportunity to try everything, because the food that they prepared was amazing. So to our students, thank you for the work that you guys have done today. This was amazing. I think the reason we're starting off, we're talking about generations, is because in the workplace, each of these generations works together every day. And the way you motivate a baby boomer is different than the way you motivate a millennial. And the way you motivate someone from Gen Z is different than how you motivate Gen X. And so from a workforce perspective, we need to understand that there are certain ways that we should meld our generations together and work together towards an even better economy in Kern County. Yes, we are a catalyst for the state. We're a catalyst for the nation in so many different things. But the generational gap is going to continue as Gen Z starts to get into the workforce more and more. They're a true digital native generation. For us that are Gen X and older, sometimes technology can be challenging, right? We have not necessarily sometimes the best experiences with technology. We need Gen Z, we need millennials to help show us better ways to utilize technology. The advancement of artificial intelligence in less than a year is already changing the dynamic of the American workplace. If you've read articles and research, the workforce is going to change, particularly in jobs that were more professional in nature. There's estimates that say more than 25% of what we currently consider professional jobs are either going to change or going to be eliminated because of artificial intelligence. And so we need to understand that not only generations play a significant role in our workforce, but the advent of artificial intelligence is going to absolutely change the way that we interact with everyone on a day-to-day basis.
We have a critical shortage of nurses. There are no career paths in I've experienced a similar shortage as nurses. What needs to be done to either get a lot more nurses or figure out what the problem is?
So Michael and I talked about today, there were several areas that we could have focused on, but we thought that focusing on health careers was important. And so in a few minutes, we're going to talk more about how we're going to have more pipelines for students in careers in health professions. I think everyone probably knows that there is an acute shortage of nurses. That's no secret. That's been in place for decades across our country. Less known is shortages in areas like respiratory therapists. One thing COVID-19 taught us is the importance of having well-trained respiratory therapists. There's still a significant shortage of respiratory therapists. There's a shortage of phlebotomists. There's a shortage of patient care technicians. Patient care technicians is the opening area that a student can enter into health professions. It's a great opportunity to learn more about health professions. Licensed vocational nursing, or LVN, RN, students with a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, nurse practitioners, physician's assistant, and of course, doctors. And so the point is, we have to understand that in the health professions, we have a significant shortage of individuals that are prepared to take the jobs that are here today, not just the jobs that are coming tomorrow. We have an acute shortage today across all of these different areas. In a moment, we're going to talk about health outcomes in our county and why having well-trained, qualified, passionate, empathetic individuals serving us as healthcare providers is critical to our growth as a county. It's critical to our economy. It's also critical to the quality of life of every individual in this room. Your family, your friends. Quality of life is so important. It's not just an economic indicator. Quality of life means that we're enjoying where we are and what we do, that when we wake up, we have a positive outlook. When we see tomorrow, we have a great understanding of the opportunities that are available for us. Without access to exceptional health care, those things become less bright.
You just mentioned the health conditions, and especially the Central Valley. How are the critical conditions affected by the need for additional services? And we're being faced now with potential federal funding cuts and everything. How are we going to make this work?
Absolutely. So a couple of statistics that you may or may not know. You hear many people talk about how, again, Kern County's economy drives the state, we drive the nation, we feed the nation, we power the nation. But behind that, do you know that we are number 2 in cardiac instances in the state of California? We're number 1 in community health outcomes in obesity. When we have issues with obesity, that's a pre-diagnosis for type 2 diabetes. It could be the precursor to type 1 diabetes. Significant cardiac issues, significant health issues that are related to the cardiovascular system. One of the issues that we confront is if we don't address critical health outcomes now, we're not going to be prepared to meet the need for the future workforce. So the first thing we have to do is talk about the outcomes that aren't so good. You heard Supervisor Perez earlier talk about honest conversations. And sometimes honest conversations lead us to the point to where we have maybe unpleasant discussions. But the point is, the truth shall always set you free. If we're really going to look at our county and understand how our workforce is going to evolve over the next 25 to 30 years, one of the most important things is today understanding the critical and chronic illnesses that are facing us today. You know, we have a city in our county that the life expectancy is less than 10 years average in the state of California. 10 years less life expectancy simply because of the zip code that you live in. Not because of anything you did, not because of anything you didn't do. Those are the kind of statistics that we absolutely have to change. Health outcomes are critical to our future. They're critical to our growth. And the question that Michael posed a second ago, how do we get that resolved? It's not a tomorrow solution, but we have to start today in plotting pathways that make that solution possible.
To add on to the issues, recently the U.S. Department of Education changes rules about loans for professional careers, and nursing was really put on the chopping block. And they weren't sitting at the table; they were on the menu, and it got chopped really significantly. So it's going to obviously have. Well, I'm going to ask you, how will that affect the nursing shortage?
Yeah, so to Michael's point, if you didn't know, recently the United States Department of Education came out with a list of professions that in the past were considered quote unquote professional degrees. The reason that's important is because those professional degrees came with a certain level of financial aid from the United States Department of Education to support those. With the recent change, nursing is one, education is another, so elementary ed. Those are no longer considered as quote unquote professional degrees with the United States Department of Education. Clearly, if we're talking about health career pathways, that exacerbates a problem that's already here today that confronts every one of us in this room. So the question becomes, how do you close a gap that wasn't narrowing to begin with? How do you now close a gap that is going to be elongated by the fact that there simply isn't going to be as much financial support for socioeconomically disadvantaged students to go to college? Sometimes it doesn't matter the cost of a unit at any institution. Students may not have the transportation to get there. They may not have the child support that allows them to go to college. They may be food insecure. They may be couch surfing from house to house. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, today, achieving a college education is not just about what happens in the classroom. It's about the services that wrap around that student and ensure that they're successful. I promise you, if you are hungry, you're not going to learn. If you're focused on where your next meal is coming from, the topics that are discussed in the classroom are not going to be that important to you. If you have a family who's hungry, that's always going to supersede what happens in the classroom. So the first thing we have to do is understand that educating students today is about ensuring that we meet holistic needs. I'll also mention that to be successful today, it isn't necessarily about a baccalaureate degree. It isn't necessarily about an associate degree. You know, you can go to school to become a commercial driver's license and have a CDL in less than 3 months and make 70, 80,000 plus a year. We need to redefine what the college experience means. The college experience might mean 8 weeks. I tried to convince Mike to go to truck driving school. We didn't quite get there, but that's another breakfast. We'll try to figure that one out. I tried to extol the virtues of over-the-road driving. He didn't quite see it the way I saw it, but I'm hopeful the day will come where we can see Mike in his next career. I saw this trucking company, and so the Turnip Seed Trucking LLC, I thought sounded really good. And Mike was not as thrilled about that as I was. You want a chance to retort? Just
years old. That's I don't know, the condition of California highways, all these bumps.
Never too old. Never too old. This was a
All I
moment.
need to do is be in a truck that's bouncing like that on the highway.
Never too old to learn, right? And I think in our conversations, particularly, one of the things that we've touched on is how do we create this new economy, and how do we leverage all this great work that's been done in the past? How do we ensure that what happened in 2014, 2015, 2016, you heard the great numbers of enrollment in students in early college and other pathways, dual enrollment. But what do we do to take the next step? How does that change? What do we need to do from here? I think that's the next question I think you and I are going to get into is where do we go from here?
That's pretty much it. Where do we go from here? how do we address the shortage of nurses? Because nurses are really the focal point in healthcare. It's the nurses in the hospital that take care of you. And so what's the answer? How will we address these critical shortages with we have in nursing and allied careers and prepare for growing demands? Because demands are only going to get, as we age, we're going to need more doctors, more nurses, more everybody.
The other issue is, of course, that we are in the United States a demographically aging population. In other words, we will have more people reach retirement age in the next 5 to 10 years than ever before in the history of our workforce. And so how do we ensure that we provide quality care for the people who are exiting the workforce at the same time? How do we prepare those who are getting ready to enter the workforce? So I'm going to say something that you may sound a little bit strange. I'm convinced that higher education should start at the 3rd grade. Think about that for a second. You're like, why would higher education start in the 3rd grade? One of the reasons is if a student exits the 3rd grade and they're not at reading or writing comprehension level across the United States, you realize their chance of failing high school is greater than their chance of succeeding in high school. And it's not to say our K-12 partners are doing a bad job, quite the contrary. Our K-12 partners in Kern County are dedicated to helping every single student in every single situation, but they're not the panacea, nor are we. We can't address every individual concern at every moment, but what we can do is start to intervene sooner. And so one of the things that you may have heard, recently we held a press conference because this summer we will launch an entity called the College Discovery Academy, or CDA. The College Discovery Academy is targeted at incoming 4th through incoming 8th grade. The reason we chose those grades is because we wanted to start integrating the possibility of different careers as early as incoming 4th graders. If many of you were like me, how many people in here were 1st generation college students? In other words, the first one in your family to ever go to a college. That's a tough road. I was a 1st generation college student. My parents didn't attend high school. And so there wasn't an opportunity to have conversations about what comes next. And like many students who are disadvantaged, the only thing that I knew was what was in front of me, and that was construction. I grew up working construction, pounding hammers as soon as I was 5 years old. I worked construction through high school. When I left high school, I started in the construction trades because that was the one thing that I knew. It's a great job and it's a great career. But students can't be what they can't see. And the question becomes, how do we start exposing 3rd graders to the opportunity to become an accountant, to becoming an attorney, to becoming a nurse, a physical therapy technician? I mean, think about that for a moment. How many conversations are taking place with 3rd graders about all these great opportunities for jobs? College Discovery Academy is a 4-week STEM-based curriculum. I'm really proud to say the curriculum is being written by our partners with KCSOS. We're working with the Kern Bakersfield City School District to identify 5 schools that 250 students will be part of this pilot program. And you might say, well, other people are doing the same thing, right? They are bringing students to a college campus. This is a 4-week intensive education program, but here's the factor that makes it different. We're going to bring in people from this audience, from across our county, and talk to them about what it means to be in a certain career. I see my realtor, Jenny, thank you, in the room. And if you're in 3rd or 4th grade, do you know what it means to be a realtor? Do you know what it means to be a broker? Do you know what it means to communicate with people when they're buying a home, making the biggest investment they'll ever make? We need to ensure that we're fully invested in talking to students about their future starting in 3rd and 4th grade. We will do this every summer as we build this program because the idea is that 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, we've prepared them because you heard the conversation earlier. Students are starting to engage in college in 8th and 9th grade. Perfect. But what happens between 3 and 8? What happens to the students who, for whatever reason, stop out, drop out? Again, no fault of our K-12 partners. Sometimes life intervenes. Life intervenes with college students, but life intervenes in elementary school. Life intervenes in middle schools. We need to ensure that the students who aren't in the classrooms are also being addressed. So by starting early, that's how we start to build this pipeline. At the end of that, think about it for a minute, bringing in people from professions, talking to students about what they can be, not what they can't be, and then creating career pathways, whether it's nurses, whether it's others. If we're going to build the workforce of tomorrow in Kern County, it starts in the elementary grades. We build that together. We build on the legacy of what we've been doing. We involve our business and industry partners in those classrooms at those times because we want the students to see what their future might look like. Yes, AI is changing the workforce. Clearly, that is going to exert a significant influence on what many of us do in this room. But it's also an opportunity because the students who are standing in the back of this room are going to be the ones who carry us into the next generation of the workforce where artificial intelligence is going to be a significant part of what we do. It doesn't necessarily mean that jobs go away. Our economy evolves. The United States 200 years ago, we were an agriculture-based economy. Many of the jobs that were here 200 years ago, guess what? Don't exist today. When we became an industrial economy, the assembly line, interchangeable parts, many of those jobs don't exist today. Artificial intelligence is just the next iteration of a change in the economy. The question is that many employers are already asking, particularly in the health fields, I need people to think critically. Think about that for a minute. Lower level tasks, artificial intelligence can absolutely handle. But the higher level tasks, the tasks of thinking critically, engaging with citizens on better health outcomes, making sure that cities in Kern County don't have a life expectancy of 10 years less than anyone else in the state simply because of the zip code they live in. That we understand the factors of prediabetes. We understand how obesity affects our bodies. Those are the things that are the next generation of what this committee did back in 2014 through 2016. The next generation is creating a pipeline, starting in elementary school, ensuring that students all along the way are exposed to great jobs. They're exposed to jobs in the healthcare industry. They're exposed to jobs in industrial automation. They're exposed to jobs in information technology, cybersecurity. Those are needs in our county that we have today. They're exposed to the next generation of jobs in agriculture. The agriculture industry is shifting. Agrivoltaics is becoming a real thing where we combine the use of microgrid solar technology and the growth of plants. That kind of work requires higher level thinking. It's all of our responsibility today to ensure that we prepare students to think critically. And so I encourage and I strongly, passionately ask for everyone in this room to be part of the solution as we build upon the great work that's already been done in the past. It's never enough, right? The work that we did then is never enough because we always need to change. We always need to evolve, and we always need to be prepared for what's next. Because I don't know about you, I was a product of the Kern Community College District. Without Saracoso Community College, without the people who were my mentors, I'm not here with you today. I'm one of the statistics that didn't make it. And thankfully, because there were enough people that cared at a time in my life where it was not easy to care about myself, people who mentor us along the way are so important. And so don't be surprised when we ask you, when we see you in various meetings and various other things, to be part of the solution and to help us mentor students and to help us pave a pathway for many students who, again, through no fault of their family, through no fault of their own, aren't exposed to all these great opportunities. And so you will see more work from us. You will see more intentionality about expanding our nursing and allied health programs. You will see very specific things come from the Kern Community College District and our member colleges to expand occupations in allied health, nursing, and other critically important industries. But I want to thank you for the opportunity to just talk about what's coming next. I want to thank Michael for meeting with me, and we have almost monthly breakfast where we have some really great conversations. And I want to take a moment to recognize you for all the work that you've done for this county, your importance, everything that happens here today that happens in the future, my friend, has been because you played a role in it. And so, thank you.
Well, you have to give thanks to the man sitting at table 11, Jay Hershey, hired me to do this job. Stand up, Jay. Anyway, thank you very much, and we'll see you at breakfast.
Absolutely.